If you clicked on this video, chances are that you might feel depressed. Maybe you've never experienced this feeling before and you're not quite sure what's going on with you. Maybe you've been suffering from this unpleasant sensation for quite some time, but never admitted that something was wrong with you and you assumed it was just you being tired and that it will pass. Just like always. It has always passed. But the feeling always comes back at some point. Well, let me tell you something. You're not alone in this situation. In fact, it is said that every man suffers from depression at some point in his life, and that's normal. Whether you are in your teenage years, mid-20s, early 30s, after the loss of a loved one, after a breakup, or after the birth of your first child, well, the possibilities of you feeling depressed are almost infinite, and every depression is deeply personal. I myself have suffered from depression, or should I say, I'm suffering from it. Because if you want the truth right away, it never leaves you really. You can feel it's always there, waiting to catch you off guard when you're at the lowest point, bringing you down even further than you already feel at this moment. Now, I don't want to sound pessimistic right from the start, especially as the first video in this channel where I want to share with you some interesting stuff that I've experienced or want to experience, aiming to better myself day by day. And I'm sure that you'd appreciate as well if your goal is to become a more complete version of yourself. Bear in mind that this channel will not be solely devoted to depression. That would be depressing. Now, for this first video in my channel, I wanted to talk about this problem and offer a different approach to depression that I have not encountered very often so far. Sure, I could provide you with a list of things you should do when you feel depressed, but I'm sure you have heard those tips many times already. Go outside, stop scrolling, socialize more. However, these tips are way too generic and don't really change anything, do they? Plus, there's already a considerable number of videos like these that you can find on the internet. The hardest part of this is not feeling depressed. It is not depression itself. The hardest part is admitting that you suffer from depression, admitting that something may indeed be wrong with you, admitting that you need help, admitting that you feel bad is already half the work done, and that's the hardest part. Hi, I'm Alex of Something From Nothing, and what I want to tell you in this video is that you have to take the L. I will take my experience as a starting point, but I'm sure that 99% of you will relate to what I say. Back in 2020, after I finished university and started my first job, I felt this ever-growing sense of entrapment, of extreme exhaustion, and constant mood swings. Piece by piece, day by day, I found myself unwilling to do anything. I used to play music a lot, paint, see people, no more of that. But the thing is, it came gradually worsening day by day, little by little, so that I've never really felt it coming. Flash forward 3 years later, coming from work exhausted and angry as usual, there stood in front of me my girlfriend crying, begging me to take a day off and actually see a doctor, saying she could not recognize me anymore and that my spark of joy, the light in my eyes just vanished. To sum up, I became just a shadow version of myself, a mere spectator of my own life. And that hurt a lot. And even if I told her I just had a very long and frustrating day, she forced me to take the day off and booked an appointment to the doctor. The next day I saw the doctor, cried my eyes out for apparently no reason, I told myself at the time, and he diagnosed me after a 45-minute appointment that I was clinically depressed. Boom. There you go. The infamous scenario that everybody's talking about on the internet. But to be fair, I believe I've been suffering from years prior, and the reasons were numerous now that I look back at my childhood, though I will not dive into this topic today. Maybe ever. There was no way I was that weak. Me, the strong-blooded guy who's always done things on his own, I was going to need help? No way. Everybody's depressed, grow a pair. So anyway, I wasn't able to go to work for the rest of the year and came back 6 months later part-time. And you know what? For the entire period that I was on sick leave, I've always told people and myself that it was the doctor who said that I should rest. That I was put on sick leave by the doctor. That they said I needed to rest and take care of myself. And I'm sure that it is what you tell yourself sometimes. And just the fact that you don't put yourself as the subject in these sentences says a lot, I feel. It's said that you don't really admit that you feel bad, always rejecting the problem, always pushing the problem on someone else. Oh yes, I'm on sick leave. Well, the doctor's orders, what can I say? And even still a bit today, I have a really hard time saying I needed it. Even worse, after getting stopped by my doctor, it took me weeks to finally see and talk to a therapist. And by the time I finally saw one, I was so far gone. In my first 2 or 3 sessions, I just sat in front of her with my arms crossed, avoiding eye contact, not saying a word. I felt so ashamed of even being here. This whole situation was not okay for me. I wanted not to have depression more than I wanted to be happy, just to prove to myself that I wouldn't stoop so low. And that distinction was very important to me. Had I taken the L sooner, life would have been much better, a whole lot faster for sure. The longer you wait, the longer it's going to take to feel better. And that's the sad reality of men and depression. Even if we made considerable progress in the past years, there is still a deep, ingrained stigma around mental health and the pressure to be tough, which discourage men from seeking therapy or opening up. Call that toxic masculinity, male ego, or anything else. Societal expectations around masculinity make it harder for men to recognize depression and accept it. And as a result, we often overlook emotional health, prioritizing physical health instead. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you shouldn't train your body. Of course, you have to have a physical activity that you enjoy doing multiple times a week. That's an absolute necessity for many aspects in your life, including mental health. What I'm saying is that your mind is a muscle and that you should train it as well. How many toxic gurus you've heard on the internet saying that you should just do push-ups and run naked in the snow to overcome your depression and to dominate the little bitch in your head? I'm sure you can think of someone right now. But if you break your arm, are you going to keep using it or are you going to the hospital to get it fixed? The tricky part is that symptoms of male depression often manifest differently. Irritability, anger, escapism, rather than visible sadness. And that, of course, tends to make it difficult for you to realize that you may be prone to depression, which, again, is vital to deal with it. Taking the L requires you to recognize it, understand that it's not a personal flaw, and being proactive rather than reactive in seeking therapy, medication if needed, and support from others. Now, to me, taking antidepressant was a whole new level of difficulty. Probably because of social stigma, again, taking antidepressant was the last straw for me, and you wouldn't believe how shameful I felt when I had the pill in my hand and how long it took me to swallow it. Then again, looking back, it was something that I truly needed, or should I say that the doctor believed I needed. See what I did there? Just like you would need a cast to fix a broken bone. When you first take your antidepressant, you feel as if that is going to be your life from now on, that you will need drugs to balance your emotions, just to feel okay. Well, just like a cast, at some point you remove it. I'm off my antidepressant and well, here I am. Just like anything in life, if you take no risks at all, you're not moving forward. Taking risk will mean embracing plenty of losses at some point or another. That's a fact. There's a saying that says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. But what about the shots you take? You're going to miss at least half of them. That's math. Are you going to stop at the first point you miss? Hell no. You should play to lose. Nothing worth winning comes without the risk of losing. In anything, your job, your love life, your hobbies, your creativity, you name it. Because I know how dark things can get, I am more thankful and more aware of the happiness in my life. Even if gratitude is still something that I need to work on for sure. That said, I can be more proactive when I feel like my depression state is slowly creeping up. And you know what? Just openly saying that to you, whoever is watching this video, well, that's already a lot for me and I hope you could get something out of my experience. Embrace your losses so that wins come out even more greatly than you could have ever imagined. If you make a mistake, say that you made a mistake and move on to your next project with dignity. Same goes with your mental health and depression. Recognize it, embrace it with dignity, adapt and move on. The world is not a perfect place and you don't have to be perfect, and remember, it is always through conflict that we evolve. But that wraps up the first episode of Something From Nothing. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you haven't already. It takes a minute and does help the channel grow. Don't forget to grab your free 7-day Take Action PDF file in the description. And while you're down there, drop a comment and share some tips or ask a question to the community. Please consider sharing the video to a friend or family member if you think they would get something out of it. Thank you for your support. I'm Alex from Something From Nothing. Let's better ourselves every day and I see you guys in the next video.